Donald Trump is set to designate the British activist group Palestine Action as a global terrorist organisation, according to reports in the United States. Well, the move would place the group under some of America's toughest counter-terror sanctions, including freezing any US assets and banning Americans from providing it with money, goods or services. Well, British supporters who continue to fund the group or take part in its activities could also face US sanctions and indeed lifetime visa bans. Well, Palestine Action, of course, was proscribed in Britain last year after activists broke into RAF Bryce Norton and damaged military aircraft and indeed whacked a policeman with a sledgehammer, although its co-founder is continuing a legal challenge against the ban in Britain. Well, with me now is the campaign's director of the Revolutionary Communist Party, Fiona Lally. Fiona, thanks indeed for joining me this very evening. Firstly, what do you make of Donald Trump's decision?
Well, let me start by saying when I saw the news, the first thing that came into my mind is the most barbaric, violent terrorist organisation on the planet is the US government itself, and the fact that it can go around making these announcements about other groups is a reflection of this dystopian world that we live in. I think it comes from a position of weakness. The general clampdown on the Palestine movement, which we should also say is a clampdown on freedom of speech, by the way, reflects the fact that the majority of people actually support those who take direct action against the genocide that is still continuing to take place against the Palestinian people. That's true in the US and that is true in Britain as well. And Palestine Action, I mean, what wars have they started? Who have they harmed in comparison to the US government?
Who have they harmed? Who have they harmed? What about the female security officer who was whacked in the back with a sledgehammer by this group, this violent group?
If you want to talk about violence in the context of Donald Trump, in the context of the US state, which not only continues to act as a terrorist across the Middle East, is also acting as a terrorist in its own country through ICE, through its horrific policies at home, then the use of the word terrorist is absolutely ludicrous. Anyone with a brain can see.
Fiona, what do you think the word terrorism means? What do you think the word terrorism means, other than trying to achieve a political end by violent means?
That is precisely what the US government has been doing when they bombed school children in Iran earlier in the year. That is precisely what the US government has always done, followed probably only by the Israeli state, by the way, with the absolute disgusting impunity with which they bomb, invade and destroy.
I can see what you're trying to do, and you're not going to get me to defend the Iran war here, but of course a war between states is very different, between citizens of a country deciding to carry out violent acts.
I'm joined now by the founder and CEO of Tally Money, Cameron Parry. So what is Tally Money and what does it do?
So you get an everyday account in your individual name, you get an account number and sort code, but instead of having an account denominated in pound sterling with your bank, you have milligrams of gold, which we brand as Tally. The reason why we chose gold, everybody understands gold, it's universally understood and accepted. It's been increasing at over 11% on average for the last 25 years against the pound. In the last 2 years, it's up 60% against the pound. So if you had, £10,000 in a Tally account 2 years ago, it's now got £16,000 worth of value. The gold hasn't changed, but the value and your purchasing power has. And so banks can't keep up with that performance. How
easy is it to get a Tally Money account then?
If you're a UK resident, it's really easy. Just go to your app store, download the app. You'll need photo ID. You can onboard yourself in a couple of minutes.
Just your passport, your driving licence?
Yep, and you're up and away. So you know what you're getting. It's very simple, low fees. It's transparent. There's no hidden fees. There's no FX spreads depending on the amount you put in. And you just get to go ahead and be productive in your daily life. Build up your savings again because it's useful to do it now.
I was going to say, so you don't necessarily, if people are watching this going, oh, it sounds a bit scary. You can open a Tally Money account, transfer. Is there a minimum amount you have to transfer?
No.
So you might think, I'm just going to play with this. I'm going to put 100 quid in it that I've got this month, and I'm either going to spend it and see if I feel like I'm getting more value for money from my sale, from the things that I'm buying, or I'm going to save it and watch how that compares to maybe 100 quid in your current account.
To find out more and to get an exclusive GB News offer, simply scan the QR code or click the link in the description.
for a political cause. That is the very definition of terrorism. It doesn't matter if it's the IRA planting bombs in bins, it doesn't matter if it's Al-Qaeda putting bombs on buses, and it doesn't matter if it's this particular group of Palestine Action deciding to smash their way into various facilities, harm people, very intentionally harm people, and indeed break property too. I mean, what on earth would you define that sort of direction as? Direct action as, other than the literal dictionary definition of terrorism?
Yeah, what matters is the fact that Trump is terrified, and it's not just Trump, the same thing has happened in Britain as well, of the fact that there is a powerful, powerful movement for the Palestinian people that exists across the West, and they have to take extreme measures by trying to compare a group such as Palestine Action
Fiona,
to
don't you think, I'm so
Al-Qaeda.
sorry, Fiona, don't you think that it is actually slightly unbecoming? Don't you think that it actually denigrates the wider Palestine movement to say that every single supporter of Palestine, as you might have just implied there, must support the most heinous sort of direct action? In fact, let's just watch a little video of one of these particular attacks. And yes, I think it's fair to call it a terrorist attack. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Well, there it's difficult to see in the chaos, but members of Palestine Action, having broken into a facility, you could see very clearly a large sledgehammer in the hands of one of those individuals, cracking into the back of a female security guard. That, in my mind, is terrorism.
I have seen, and millions of people all over the world have seen over the last 3 years, the most disgusting, barbaric videos of violence coming out of Gaza because of what the IDF has been doing, because they've been backed to the hilt by the US government. First by Biden, and then by Trump, by the way, who claimed that he wasn't going to be in favor of continuing all of these wars and continuing all of this destruction. And he has done the complete
opposite. Do you think you stop violence with more violence?
He has continued wars, and he's not been able to keep a single promise that he made in the course of his election campaign. Because it's not even about Trump itself, it's about what US capitalist power represents. And in order to maintain their own interests, they will enact as much violence across the world as they have
Did
always
Martin
done.
Luther King or Mahatma Gandhi decide to go and beat up officers of the state, or indeed smash the back of private security officers at facilities they disliked? Did they do that, or did they think the path to political change was carried through peaceful protest?
I will take no lectures on the question of violence from anyone who speaks in any support of the US government in any capacity. And that's what this comes down to. You can try and abstract it to say...
What do you mean in any capacity? I've been studious in this interview to stay absolutely neutral on the US's action in the Middle East. I have not mentioned one word of support or opposition for it, because I want to stick to the issue at hand.
What you have is people who have been targeting machinery that is being used in the genocide against
people defending that machinery.
People who are targeting machinery, people who are targeting planes, things like this, and to try and compare it in any way, shape or form to the real monstrous terrorist acts that the US government and the IDF specifically, which I would describe as a terrorist state, as a terrorist army, have been enacting, not just against the Palestinians, but in people all around that region over the last however many years, is absolutely ludicrous. And I think anyone with a brain can see that. And the fact
I really didn't want to get into an argument on the particulars of the Middle East, but I think it's fair to say that we are seeing terror going from Hamas towards Israel as well. That's of course what kicked off this whole thing.
There's been a historic transformation in how American people view Israel. There's been a historic transformation in how people across the West understand what is taking place. That is what terrifies the US ruling class. That is what terrifies the British ruling class as well. And that's only going to continue. If you then attack these groups and call them terrorists, it's just going to make people revere, or not revere, it's going to make people repulsed by who the US claims is supposed to be an enemy or not. It's completely out of touch.
Fiona, let's flip this round. Let's flip this round, because of course the particulars
I think Trump is doing this
let's flip this round, because the particulars of this particular decision from Donald... Look, Fiona, if we both speak at once, no one can hear either of us. But ultimately, let's talk about the particulars of this decision from Donald Trump, what it actually means. It means that any American cannot provide financial support to this group. It means that any member of this group cannot get a visa to come to the United States. These are two rather moderate, in my view, measures, particularly compared to what the United Kingdom government has done. And I actually think I'd probably side with you when it comes to the United Kingdom's prescription. I personally think it is absurd that anyone can be arrested on the streets of the United Kingdom for holding up a sign saying the words "I support Palestine Action." Those arrests are balmy, and what the British government did there, in my view, is silly. However, it's not what the United States government has done, which in my view seems much more sensible. That it shouldn't be legal to give money to a group that exists to destroy company property and indeed has on more than one occasion carried out attacks that involve human beings too.
And what about the IDF? And what about joining and being a war criminal in the IDF? Like, the idea that this is about preventing people supporting violent action is completely false, because that is fine.
I mean, it's literally true.
The US government, and that is fine according also to the British government and the Labour government.
The British government literally banned arms exports to Israel under the Starmer administration.
No, they haven't fully banned arms exports to Israel, as we know, and I think the Labour government is in the process.
No weapon can be sold from Britain to Israel. It is against the law.
And what does that reflect? What does that reflect about the mood in the public, that they have to pretend that they aren't giving as many weapons to Israel as they actually currently are? It's because they know.
What do you mean pretend? They literally put forward, they changed the export regime.
It's completely out of touch.
But nothing's ever going to be good enough for the kind of people that support Palestine Action. That's the truth, isn't it, Fiona? That no matter how much crawling devotion the United Kingdom government gives towards Palestine, no matter how many arms embargoes it puts forward or export regimes it changes, nothing, or indeed recognition. The United Kingdom government literally recognised the state of Palestine, but none of it's enough for these people, because frankly these people are extremists, are they not?
No, yet what is not enough is the fact that the genocide against the Palestinian people is continuing to take place, that is being backed militarily, financially and politically by Western imperialism. And that begins first and foremost with the most destructive force on the planet, which is the US government, of which Donald Trump is the chief terrorist of at the current moment in time. And the British government is completely trailing behind them, as are many of the governments across Europe. Yeah, it is not enough that certain things, certain exports were changed. The genocide is continuing to take place. And you call the people who are doing everything they can to stop that genocide extremists. The extremists are those who are defending the IDF. The extremists are those that are defending the US and defending all of this clampdown against the Palestine movement, whether it's to do with the prescription of Palestine Action or any other force that the US is engaged with as well.
My definition of extremism tends to quite heavily overlap with people who use violence for political ends, but I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. Fiona Lally, the campaigns coordinator at the Revolutionary Communist Party, I appreciate your time this evening. Well, let's now speak to my panel.